and you are encouraged to kind of experiment and fail and experiment more. She honestly said, look, your documentary work is absolutely rubbish. I definitely have developed as an artist. Sorry, that sounds quite rambling, but yeah, that's kind of a bit of development time, I think, is what I'd like to do.
Hi, I'm Claire, founder of Open Stage Arts, Drama and Singing classes for adults. Lots of the adults who come to our classes and online events are looking for a creativity that has been put on the back burner during their sensible grown-up years. I have found this to be true among other creatives too, so I've decided to find out more about the painters, photographers, writers, printmakers, actors, crafters, teachers and more who have found or refound their creativity later in life. For this episode, I'm chatting with Philippa James, whose photography exhibition 100 Women of Oxford launched in March at Tap Social in Oxford, before being cut short by you-know-what. In case you're listening in the future, this is 2020. In the second lockdown, we spoke over Zoom about her work in film and television, her move to Oxford, and how she made herself believe she was a real photographer. Hi Philippa!
Hello!
You have told me that you feel like you are back to square one creatively right now. We'll talk about your education and career later, but for now, can you tell me how you are exploring your creativity?
Yeah, so basically through photography. I've been doing weddings for about 10 years, and this year, or well, the end of last year, I delved deep into doing more personal work, and yeah, on a very exciting journey right now.
Brilliant. Did you have a good experience of the arts as a youngster in your general life and in your educational system?
Yeah, I mean, I always had a camera, so there was that. But in terms of, education, I dropped out. Yeah, I dropped out of kind of college, I guess, when I was 16, I think it was. So, kind of lost myself a bit and went in a different direction. Then got a job in a pub and then decided, yeah, definitely I just want to do something more creatively. It was always, I didn't know what it was then, what I was into or anything, but I definitely was always drawn to kind of the arts of some sort. And then, yeah, I did an art foundation course, which, yeah, I loved. It was just amazing. And I don't know anyone who's done an art foundation who doesn't like it. Like there's something, I came from a background where I kind of wasn't in education. So it just was so freeing to be able to just explore and just experiment. And, you are encouraged to kind of experiment and fail and experiment more. And, it was a really good grounding. And I know friends of mine who did it, doing like fine art at GCSE or whatever, and it forced them to break their rules, to colour outside the lines and, like all that kind of thing. So the art foundation for me was absolutely incredible. And that was the stepping stone, which then meant I could go to university, which it was never on the cards when I was younger at all. Quite the opposite, in fact. So my path definitely looked like it was going downhill. And definitely took a turn creatively and, for the positive. So, yeah. And then went to university and initially was going to go and do graphic design. But, in hindsight, looking at my work, yeah, there was no way I was going to do graphic design. And, in my interview, they were like, you're very much move and image. That's what I was kind of really interested in. So it still wasn't photography, but, yeah, it was more like move and image, but, screen-based, like time-based media and stuff. So, yeah, completely changed in my interview, and they brought in the teacher and took me on that course. So, yeah.
Wow. How did your career develop after university?
So after uni, I moved to London, always wanted to live in London. So, yeah, so while I was at university, I kind of finished my main project early, and then I got to work on Art Attack, and it was just brilliant. It was just so much fun. And so that kind of gave me kind of the more TV kind of experience. And then once I graduated, yeah, I worked on like really low budget films to begin with, I guess, and then traveled quite a lot with that, and then yeah, just worked in TV for about 10 years, something like that. And then always wanted to direct. So kind of I got some funding from Wales actually to write a feature film. which was the hardest thing I've ever done, and realised how words was definitely not me. So I guess at this point, I'm always like playing with creativity, but hadn't really found my calling, so to speak. Then I directed a short film, and I always just wanted to direct TV or film or something. Near the end, I was directing, second unit directing a TV show. And then that's when I fell pregnant. So everything kind of completely changed. But I had no idea at the time that this was going to change. And then, then soon after that, I left the industry really, which, did, completely changed.
When you moved to Oxford, things changed in your life. Can you tell me more about that time?
Yeah, so I guess, so Edith, my eldest, she was born in London, and then we couldn't afford to live there like, many others. I was brought up in the middle of nowhere, so I always loved city life, like I crave it. And my husband's got, my in-laws live like in North Oxfordshire kind of thing. So it was like, it's like the compromise, because I wanted to still be in a city. So we came here, and because I'd had Edith, and I kind of made the choice to leave the TV industry, because I don't know, my husband works in it as well. The hours are really incredible, like really demanding. So with both of us doing it, I decided that, one of us should be kind of more at home. And then, so we moved to Oxford, and then I changed my direction completely and just did childminding, which, at the beginning, it was actually really nice because it was an opportunity for me to be with my daughter, and to be with other children was, really good for her. And it was fun, I got really involved in like the play groups and, did all things like that. But I definitely feel like I definitely did it for too long. And I think in hindsight, looking back, what it was doing was completely squishing everything of the old me, which happens when you become a mum anyway, or can happen, sorry. So there was kind of that going on. And then I guess the other side was there was no creativity going on in my life. I was full-time mum. We left London, so I was in Oxford, which was a brand new city. I didn't know anybody. The only kind of people I was meeting was, other mums, which was lovely and stuff. But by that point, I felt like so much of me had been ripped away from working in the city and having this quite high-flying job. And everything was like all go, and I was writing scripts and doing like fun things. It was, there were hard times, I must say. And I don't think at that point I really pinpointed that the lack of creativity was driving me quite insane. And I didn't realise actually at that point how important the creativity was for me. Looking back, really interesting. Most artists or creatives would say it is their sanity, I guess. And I definitely can definitely hand on my heart say that now. So that's what brought us to Oxford. And that was my kind of initial experience of it. So it definitely took me a while to settle here.
At what point were you able to understand or accept that you really needed creativity back in your life?
It's really interesting chatting to you and kind of putting it all together and analysing it, to be honest. So I guess we had Betsy, who's my second child, and after she was born, I think that was probably, it sounds like I was really depressed, and there was so many joyful moments as well, but at that point, after she was born, I think I did go to a pretty dark place. I realised I needed some support and help, which I've never done, and I never saw myself as someone who had mental health issues or anything like that, but I definitely thought, okay, these kids need me sane and I need to get better. I remember really clearly just phoning up the doctors and just saying, right, I need to see someone now. And then went to the doctors, and they said, you can have this talk therapy. And in my head, it was just so big. And I was thinking, like, talk therapy for 20 minutes. This was like free on the NHS. I was like, that's not going to solve me. But it really was, again, just that stepping stone that really did help me. And through that period, it just started giving me strength and realising I need to do something. I need to actually leave childminding and actually really focus on obviously making money was, we had to do that. We needed money. That's why I was childminding at the beginning. So yeah, I definitely just found the strength and just put my business hat on, and I was like, okay, I need to do something that definitely serves my creativity but also brings in money. So that was kind of like a priority. And I guess that was the motivation that really made me then look at photography. Actually, it wasn't my motivation. It was actually a really good friend of mine during that time. And at this point, I think I was going to still do something with move and image. So I bought myself an SLR digital camera. Before that, I was shooting on film that you could record video on. And actually, that's what, and I was going to do like little documentaries or something. I don't know. I was just making it up, but I was definitely going to do something creative. And my very, very close friend, Maki Yoshikura, who I always thank her for being brutally honest with me. And we went for a walk, and, I was very down, and Edith, the toddler, was running around and, had the baby. And she honestly said, look, your documentary work is absolutely rubbish. Like, it's just rubbish. It's not. And I was like broken. I was this broken shell at this point. And she was like, look, you're really good at photography. Why aren't you doing photography? Just start doing photography. And at that point, I think I'd shot her wedding, and I'd shot someone else's wedding. And I was like, I'm not doing wedding photography. I was such like a snob with her. And she was the one who kind of just literally kicked me up the bum and said, like, you can be in charge, like, but that's what you're good at. You've got an eye, you're good at it, you enjoy it. Like, what's your problem? And it really was that moment. We were walking in London. I remember it so clearly. So yeah, thanks, Mackie, for just being honest friends.
Oh, I love that story. Oh. So you continued with wedding photography after that point?
Yeah, well, I say continued. By this point, I was, a hobbyist. I've always done photography, always done bits and bobs. Do you know what I mean? And I was only doing friends' weddings as the mate with the camera, who knew what they were doing. And then a friend's colleague got in touch saying, oh, you did, our colleague's wedding. I wondered if you could do ours. And I was at this point still, obviously Mackie's conversation was ringing in my head, but I still hadn't accepted that this was going to happen. And I was like, look, I'm not a photographer. And they were like, yeah, we know you're not a photographer. We've seen their pictures and that's kind of what we like. We don't want but at this point, wedding photography was still very quite kind of traditional. Now it's very alternative. And I mean, wedding photography, I think, is so artistic and brilliant. But at that point, it was still not as alternative as it is now, should we say. Yeah, so they just wanted something different, and they wanted not the norm. And so I had Mackie's kind of advice ringing in my head. And so, I said, okay, if I do this, I am doing it just my way. This is how I do it. I'm not a professional. So, I kind of gave myself permission to do it my creative way, whatever that looked like. And they were just really supportive. And we came up with a price, and I went and shot it. And I bloody loved it. It was so much fun being around people. Like, that's definitely my kind of thing. Constantly shooting, and everyone there wanted to be photographed. Like, it's a brilliant day. So you're not like this weirdo trying to capture this, moment. You're allowed to be there. You've got the permission to photograph everyone there, and do, you've got all this artistic license to do what you want. Which, yeah, it was incredible, and I was really pleased with the photos, and they were, and yeah, just had then the buzz and the bug, I guess. And then from then on, started taking it more seriously. I went on a workshop, Lisa Devlin, who's down in Brighton. It's called the Photography Farm, which is, it was just the first step. It was about, I think, £1,000 to do this like weekend workshop, which was a lot of money. Like, I was earning childminding money, and it was just so much. But it was like, okay, if I'm going to take this seriously, I need to take the step and start really, like, approaching it more seriously instead of it just now being a hobby. And doing that workshop definitely changed me. And I'm still in touch with her now, and yeah, it was incredible. And so those were the first steps of becoming a wedding photographer. And then as Betsy was, still little, I kind of set up that business, and it was fantastic. It was brilliant. And then it's still, I still do it now.
Yeah, you must have been very happy to have been able to find something that pays, but that gives you that creative outlet that you discovered you were missing when you were feeling very down?
Honestly, when I compare it, and even now, there isn't, it sounds really cheesy, but there isn't a day that goes by that I'm not so grateful for the position I'm in. I pinch myself to be this lucky. And in hindsight, again, looking back to even in the film industry, which I really enjoyed, this even beats any of that. So it's almost like I've come full circle, but like photography is definitely more me than film, which I wouldn't have known if I hadn't have gone on the long journey, So I've definitely found my calling. Like there's no other, I can't imagine doing anything else. Photography is so me, in so many levels. It's not just about the final print. It's just the relationship with people when you photograph them, be it weddings or artistic or portrait, or I love that relationship, and the camera kind of gives me that, what's it called, like access to people, which I just love. And the more I do it, and the more now I'm getting more into personal projects and stuff, it's a whole world of it that I'm yet to explore, which is so exciting.
Which leads us nicely on, actually. Access to people. Recently, you have made a decision to move in a more artistic and less commercial direction, not exclusively, obviously. How have you come to that decision, and how easy has it been for you to actually do that?
Yes, so I don't think anything's easy at the beginning. So so I started my project 100 Women of Oxford, which was kind of my first, like, put my toe in the water. I wanted to do a personal project. I wanted to get to know the city more. I'd been here for about 5-6 years or something like that. And I wanted to get to know the city more. I wanted to know who lived here. I wanted to know what other women lived here. I wanted to meet other women. There was lots of reasons why I started this project that, it was a personal project. It wasn't, it has become, a great success now. But I mean, at the time, it was just me exploring something. And so I did start it 4 years ago. I think I'd done photography for about 4 years at this point. And there is a wedding photography, and I think after 4 years in wedding photography, it's quite common, a lot of wedding photographers feel it, you get a bit itchy. And that doesn't mean, but people do start going in a little bit directions, or just, just exploring further or going deeper into their practice, whatever that might look like. And for me, what it was, I just wanted to do like a project outside of weddings, I guess. And so this is what I started. Like, I loved it. And so the idea was that I was just going to meet most of them. I think all of them were going to be strangers or people I didn't know very well, because I wanted to get out of my bubble. I wanted to get out of my safe zone. So that's how it started. And I was just meeting like incredible women with incredible stories. And then I'd meet someone and they'd say, oh, you should speak to so-and-so. They would be really interested in this project. And then I'd go meet them, and then I'd just be like blown away by their story or their experience, or just who they were, or stuff that they shared, or just their minds were just amazing. And then I think I photographed about 10 women, and I was buzzing from it. Don't get me wrong, I felt this real buzz, like there was so much excitement. I just felt really, after shooting 10, I was like, oh my God, like these women are incredible. Who am I to kind of be the one who facilitates 100 voices? Like, I don't even know my own voice. These women are, they really know who they are. They're so inspiring. Who am I to, I don't know, I just felt really lost and really small, and all of a sudden back to square one. I don't know anything, and all of these insecurities came in, and I was faking it and all the rest of it. And so I literally put it to bed and busied myself with my wedding photography, and, really like worked on the marketing and the business, which was fantastic. And, that became quite successful, which was brilliant. There's always good things that comes out of things. But and then I think 4 years later, I decided it was, the right time to kind of, just pull your socks up, sort it out, go back in there, because it is scary, but you're only going to learn by doing this. And then that's when I went back in and finished it this year, at the beginning of this year.
So do you think there was a specific reason that you were able to re-engage with it at that time?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think from kind of starting it and stopping it, and then in between those times I was given like a few kind of teasing experiences, I guess, which led to me to actually get the project done. One of them was I got invited to go over to Louisiana Museum of Modern Art in Denmark, which is this incredible, like absolutely mind-blowing, incredible gallery space. I got asked to kind of teach some workshops alongside the photographer Dijkstra, who actually was one of the first photographers I used to follow years and years and years ago. So this was a complete honour to be there. And I think I was there for about 5 days. And if you're there as a lecturer or as an artist, you get to stay in the artist quarters, which are like on the beach and it's attached to the museum. So you kind of live and breathe all this artwork. It's just, you know, an incredible experience. And yeah, I was extremely nervous. I've never done anything like this before. And I guess that started introducing me to the art world again. Something which I was removed from, you know, my head was all in weddings and business and that kind of stuff. And this was like gradually wooing me, I guess, back to kind of projects and artwork and why people make art and why it's important. So it's kind of bringing me back to that way of thinking. I mean, it's easy to maybe realize that now, but at the time I didn't know any of this. And then I think when I came back, I did put one of the prints that I'd photographed Clara, and I put one of her prints into like an open call. I think it was for Oxfordshire Art Weeks, and the Jam Factory in Oxford had this open call where everyone like put in like a piece of work. And so I just tipping my, you know, put my toe in the water, kind of took that in. So I think I was slowly warming up to the idea of getting my hands dirty with this project again. But I just had to do it gradually. It was something I had to grow into, I think, she says. And then once I'd really decided, and I'm a bit like this, my husband always tells me off, once I decide I'm going to do something, that's it. There's no stopping me, and I go hell for leather, and I kind of live and breathe a project or whatever it is that I'm doing. And so once I'd kind of decided, I went and had a chat with Tess, who owns Tap Social Movement in Botley, and said, look, I've got this project, I've only shot 10 women, there's 90 to go. It would be really cool if we had an exhibition in here and, you know, put it up for International Women's Day, like 2020, like, great. That sounds great, you know. So it was almost like giving yourself a deadline, making yourself accountable to someone else, and then there's no chance of, you know, going backwards. You have to go forwards and you have to do it. I mean, I wouldn't say that's the right way to do it, but for me, that's what happened, and that's the way I had to do it. Because also this project is 100 portraits, you know, it could have lasted years, you know. There's a photographer actually in London called Jenny Lewis, and she's doing 100 portraits in Hackney. And I think she's been on it for a couple of years, you know, and she shoots 300 and then chooses 100. Whereas I decided to do this project. I had 3 months, basically. It was, 3 months, or just over 3 months, to find the women, take the photograph, you know, meet, record it, and turn it into a print and put it on the wall. So it was very, very, you know, to shoot 90 women in that small amount of time. But again, it was just, I'd definitely not do that again, but it was definitely, what was incredible is I was living and breathing it, which was so exciting to do that. And especially because weddings, you know, goes throughout the year, but I knew I had this space where there was no weddings, so I knew I could do it. And I just think, thank God I did, you know, and it definitely changed things around for me, you know, not in terms of success or anything, just in terms of the way I now approach art photography and approach my kind of more creative photography moving forward, definitely.
So having your personal work exhibited has obviously contributed to your understanding of what you want to be doing now. Is that true?
Yeah, it couldn't be. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I think, so Tap Social was absolutely fantastic. It was a massive party. on International Women's Day, I think 500 people came, and you know, it was a real celebration on so many levels for me, for the women, for TAP, for like, you know, it was just fun for obviously International Women's Day. And then obviously lockdown happened. And then when it got picked up by the North Wall through Photo Oxford Festival, sorry, that definitely has given me just like the contacts, the networks, the way they talk about the work, you know, it's just gone to a different place now. And they've really like mentored me, really. I think my journey from being at the North Wall, I definitely have developed as an artist, like absolutely. Whereas, you know, up at TAP, it was still very party, you know, and it was like such a big celebration. Whereas when it went to an actual art gallery, I don't know, it just had this different tone about it. And the way they approached me as an artist, like we were talking about before, you know, make it until you, or fake it until you make it type of thing. Like, you know, before that, I was very giggly about an artist or photographer, you know, and actually, yeah, you know, I am. Like, this is where I'm going. I'm at the beginning, absolutely, but that doesn't mean anything. That it just gave me the confidence, and has given me the confidence, rather, to actually really see this isn't just one project. This isn't just a one-off personal hobby on the side of my weddings. This is actually something which I'm definitely going to pursue now, you know, and to begin with, the weddings will be a little bit on the side. Do you know what I mean? Obviously financially, and I really do enjoy them as well, you know. But in terms of the future, I definitely want to pursue more kind of art projects. Is that what they're called? Personal projects, commissioned project. I'm not sure what they're called. Documentary projects. Yeah, I've definitely got a lot more of that, and I'm definitely at the beginning. I'm very, very excited to explore that side.
What plans do you have for the future, near or far?
Oh, so I guess the next step is possibly a book of 100 women. I mean, everyone has been talking about that it should be a book, and you know, and I know it should. It's not that I disagree. It's just, you know, typing into Google how to make my first book. You know, I'm at the very beginning of knowing how to do this and what to do. So I've met an art historian actually from the North Wall, and she's gonna like write the introduction to it and stuff. So we're just at the very, very, very early stages of something. And I think it would be a nice, it would make a lovely book, and it would be a nice piece of history for Oxford at least. So yeah, so it'd be, you know, just a small run. The ball is rolling slowly on that. And then I guess my next step is I've got another project in mind, which is Oxford based again, because I definitely feel like there's a lot for me to explore in Oxford. But before I kind of delve into that project, I think what I want to do is kind of just experiment a little bit with my camera a bit more. The 100 project was shot in a style which is, you know, quite a formula. Each woman was photographed in their house in front of a window, a little bit like a bride, you know, when she's getting ready. You know, it's a formula that I was very confident with, very comfortable with. And really that project was more about the access and me meeting and listening and, you know, learning. The photographs are beautiful, but, you know, the photographs didn't necessarily push me creatively. The project did, if that makes sense. So I guess what I'd like to do next is kind of develop my photography skills, or, you know, that side of it, and then approach it into more of a documentary way. Sorry, that sounds quite rambling, but yeah, that's kind of a bit of development time, I think, is what I'd like to do, and not rush into the next project like last time. But I definitely feel confident that there is definitely another project, which I wouldn't have said before, you know, so there's definitely another project coming, but it's not going to be rushed, and I want to experiment more with kind of the photograph, I guess. Yeah.
There are many, many podcasts out there. It's difficult to know where to start. So for each episode, I ask my guests for their recommendations. You're welcome.
I highly recommend, and absolutely obsessed at the moment with, A Small Voice, Conversation with Photographers by Ben Smith, the photographer. It's just lovely, and he has really long depth interviews with like a diverse range of photographers all over the place. and just talks about their projects or what they're doing, past projects, future projects, any news, things like that. And yeah, I listen to it all the time. And if and when I go running, that's when I plug in, and it's the one thing that motivates me to keep going. So yes, I highly recommend it.
Fabulous, thank you. How can people connect with or contact you?
So Instagram is @Philippa James, and my website is, well, I've got two websites. The art website is Philippa James Photography /art, which is where you can see kind of my new, more personal work, I guess, which is up and coming. And then obviously my weddings is just Philippa James Photography.
Brilliant. Right? Yeah, no, that's super.
I'm chatting to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm not doing anything. I'm just sitting here smiling. Creativity Found is an Open Stage Arts production. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please feel free to subscribe, rate and review. If you would like to help fund future episodes, you can buy us a coffee. That's ko-fi, the online platform that helps creators receive financial support from fans of their work. Visit ko-fi.com/creativityfoundpodcast. If you have found your creativity as an adult and would like to talk to me for future podcasts, drop me a line at Claire, CLAIRE, @openstagearts.co.uk. On Instagram or Facebook, follow @Creativity Found Podcast, where you'll find photos of our contributors' artworks and be kept abreast of what we're up to.